everybody. Welcome to Friday night. It's great to have you here. So glad that you're with me. You heard Jillian Michaels just say it. We've got all this big breaking news on these inmates, like a whole collection of them, almost a dozen of them, busting out of a jail overnight and being on the run for almost 24 hours. 2 of them have been nabbed. 1 of them just about an hour and a bit ago. So we have a big update on who these guys are, what they are accused, and some have been convicted of doing. And may I just say, these are not nice guys necessarily. We're talking murders, rapes, kidnappings, dangerous, dangerous escapees on the loose tonight. And one of the guys on my staff mentioned today, did you know it's Tulane's graduation tomorrow in New Orleans, where all these guys escaped? So, hey, parents and kids in New Orleans, that's happening in your community. I have an update on everything on the ground as to how this happened, why that jail is so woefully understaffed, and how it was just, easy to break the locks and get out. That's all coming up next. Was it an inside job? Good question. Also, Justin Bieber. Ever since all the rumors and discussion and speculation and then lawsuits and charges against P. Diddy, people have been on fire about the possibility that Justin Bieber may have been a victim. I mean, ever since he was this cute little mop-headed kid, he's been a protege of P. Diddy's. There were all sorts of videos that were released well over a dozen years ago saying we're going to have a great 48 hours, like a great 48 hours together. And that fueled a lot of speculation that maybe, just maybe, Justin Bieber could have been victimized. Tonight, Bieber is setting the record straight. He's given an exclusive statement to TMZ, and it's pretty clear how he weighs in on this and how he weighs in on Diddy. I talked to Harvey Levin about it. He's going to be on the show tonight. He's got a big, huge investigative special on Justin Bieber's what appears to be a downward spiral. That's coming up. And then a heart-stopping video from an officer's body cam. Look, it's dangerous being an officer, I get it, but it is particularly dangerous when a bad guy gets an officer's gun and then turns it on her. Take a look.
That's my gun! Here's my gun! That's my gun!
Forever!
Please don't shoot me! Please don't shoot me!
What led to an officer having to beg for her life? And then more importantly, what happened next? I have all of that for you. I'm going to play you the complete video, but let's start here. 2 down, another 8 to go. And I am assuming it is not going to be the most relaxing night for a group of fugitive inmates who busted out of a New Orleans jail last night. Of the 10 who escaped, exactly 2 have now been captured as of just an hour ago. And that leaves 8 men who law enforcement describe as armed and dangerous still on the loose. But it also leaves a sheriff's department facing a mortifying question. Strangely, it's not how so many dangerous guys were able to get out, but more so how 1,500 other inmates are still in, given the almost laughable circumstances that led to the jailbreak at the Orleans Parish Justice Center, which we know because the sheriff's office has told us about this now. Let me start here with the guys who got away. They are 33-year-old Antoine Massey, 27-year-old Lenton Van Buren, 31-year-old Leo Tate, 27-year-old Derek Groves, 42-year-old Jermaine Donald, 20-year-old Corey Boyd, 24-year-old DeKennon Dennis, and 21-year-old Gary Price. The 2 other guys, 20-year-old Kendall Miles, he made it out with everybody else, but he didn't get very far. He was caught this morning hiding under a car in the French Quarter. And courtesy of the good law enforcement folks in New Orleans, they gave us this clip of him after capture. Looks a little dirty, if you ask me. Maybe he had a rough night. And then there was 21-year-old Robert Moody. He's the most recent caller, and he's being returned to custody as we speak. But so far, that's all we know. We got this photo, but we didn't get any other details. But you know what? The night's young, and I'm still waiting for the alert. So at least 3 of the men who are on the loose tonight were being held on murder charges. Others were on attempted murder charges, others on rape and kidnapping. So yeah, Serious charges, serious crimes. The inmates slipped out at 1:01 a.m. according to surveillance video. And yes, there it is. It's just, are you kidding me? Like jaw-dropping surveillance video of the whole thing. Out they go. Nobody noticed. Whoosh, out the loading dock. Nobody noticed this. Nobody was watching the monitors. There's like a dozen guys all in white and orange running out the door. They didn't even tunnel out. They just took off out the door. How did this happen, you ask? Good question. We asked too. A civilian who was asked to watch this particular pod of inmates apparently got up to get some food. And nobody noticed this entire group of inmates missing until head count this morning at 8:30 a.m. And that is 7.5 hours after this pretty little piece of tape was recorded out the loading dock. So how is that for a lapse in security, my friends? And although the deputies initially thought 11 inmates were gone, one of them actually turned up in a different cell. So, oops, whoops, I guess he's here anyway. At a news conference where the sheriff took 0 questions, Sheriff Susan Hudson blamed the escape on, quote, defective locks and doors, which she says is a chronic problem that city officials are well aware of. Good to know that they're aware of defective locks and doors at a jail. I mentioned 1,500 inmates. The sheriff says they only have enough staff to handle 900 inmates and have told City Hall as much repeatedly while asking for more funding and more staff to do the actual job they have to do. And by the way, even though I just showed you some delicious video, do not expect any more camera shots to pick up the slack of what happened, where, and when. Because we learned today that 1/3 of the cameras at the Orleans Parish Jail don't work. They just don't work, like the locks and the doors. 3 of the faulty cameras that just don't work are in the actual area where the breakout happened. Natch. And as if everything I just reported weren't bad enough, the authorities are pretty sure that this was an inside job. Somebody or several somebodies on the sheriff's payroll are suspected of helping the inmates escape. And tonight, 3 workers are on administrative leave. So exactly how did the inmates pull off this fascinating breakout? This might be the best part of the story. Look closely. First, they unbolted a metal toilet to reveal a hole in the wall behind it. How convenient. They also took the time to scribble a couple of messages like, "Too easy, LOL," and some other choice things that I'm not allowed to read on TV because, broadcast licenses. So after they revealed the hole in the wall behind the toilet, they made their way to the jail's loading dock. I showed you that already. And then they scaled a wall of the jail and got over it and bolted across that interstate where we've happily highlighted a few of them skedaddling through traffic. Yeah, like Frogger. As always, the FBI and U.S. Marshals are helping police with the search, and Louisiana's governor is warning the fugitives, and I quote, "Every single one of you will be caught." And I will add this. Hopefully they'll be brought back to a different jail. I'm joined now by reporter Susan Rosden, who's from WGNO, our New Orleans affiliate. I cannot even believe the situational circumstances, Susan, that has brought me to you tonight. And I'm delighted that you're with me tonight. I wish it was under different circumstances. What's the status of the manhunt?
It continues, and we can only hope that Governor Landry is correct and the long arm of the law actually will snatch these guys one by one. Moody, we believe, was captured in a local motel, a no-tell motel, as you mentioned just about an hour ago. The other guy was found hiding underneath a parked car in a hotel parking garage. Maybe he wanted to, steal the car to get away. I think they're going to pluck these guys up one by one. Everybody's out there. You mentioned U.S. Marshals, FBI, Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office. It goes on. And criminals aren't very bright. You talked, Ashleigh, about, what could lead to this at the jail? Why is it so easy to break out of? Too easy. Well, it's money. There's just no funding. That's what the sheriff says. And frankly, in this newsroom, we believe her. She's come repeatedly before the city council saying, I've got to have more money. As you mentioned, 1,500 inmates in a jail that was actually designed for 1,250. And as she says, only 900 can be monitored. So it's a real problem here.
Okay, Susan, I'm going to ask this next question, and I'll warn our audience, you and I have a very long digital delay. So while it sounds like you're taking a long time to figure out your answer, you're not. You're just on a 4-second delay. But I, learned from my staff that Tulane's big graduation is tomorrow. Is there anything happening in particular to make sure that all of those visitors and those students and everybody is going to be safe from these, rogue band of rogue escapees?
I have to tell you, no, we have not heard of any concern for those Tulane graduates or for any of the high school graduates that will be at commencement this weekend. No concern of that. I do have on my phone a NOLA ready alert, Ashleigh. It says a second inmate has been captured. This came out about 30 minutes ago. Stay aware of your surroundings. And if you see something, say something. Follow local media for more information. So basically, law enforcement is telling people, be alert. These guys may not be armed, but they're certainly dangerous. And if you see them, you could get a big, fat reward. Crime Stoppers is offering $2,000 per inmate for a tip that leads to an arrest, and the FBI is offering $5,000 per inmate for a tip that leads to an arrest. So maybe, people like to be busybodies, or they like to pick up some cash, and maybe that will spur the recapturing of the other 8.
Well, let's hope something does. But definitely, Susan, break in and let us know if you get another one of the alerts. It seems as though they're going to pick them off, hopefully fast and furiously, and maybe even during this hour. So we'll come back to you if you can break in with some news. Susan Rosagen joining us live tonight. Much appreciated. I want to now bring in Lenny DePaul, who is formerly the head of the largest fugitive tracking force in the world, as Chief Inspector and Commander of the U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force. Lenny, good to have you on again. Okay, so what are the trackers doing right now?
Well, I'm just shaking my head. What a mess they've got. It's obviously an intense manhunt going on right now, but there's also, and as you stated earlier, the premier agency in this country, the United States Marshals, are involved, and they've got the fugitive investigation going on behind the scenes, and they're putting that puzzle together, connecting the dots. That digital footprint obviously is going to be very important historically. Who do these inmates talk to? Who visited them? If they had help on the inside, who was conveying messages to who? I mean, there's a whole lot of unanswered questions, but the visitors list is important. So they're shaking their trees. I mean, they're turning their worlds upside down, Ashley, and they have to. One by one, as you said, they're getting picked off here, but I'm not sure if they had a plan B or not. I mean, taking into consideration the 2 that have been captured, it didn't appear like they had much of a plan going on. But yeah, they're out there Q&A-ing people, knocking on doors. As Susan stated, there's reward money out there. We certainly know the streets like to talk, so hopefully that helps a little bit. Social media is fired up. Their pictures are plastered everywhere. So get a bunch of eyes and ears out there. Public needs to remain vigilant, but who knows? I mean, the rap sheets on some of these guys, weapons violations, homicides, is it when that news starts tightening, what is it for law enforcement? Is it a hostage situation? Yeah, barricaded
You know what?
suspect.
Let me read some of that. Because you brought it up, let me read some of the charges that we're talking about involved with this group of guys. Double murder, second-degree murder, attempted first-degree murder, domestic abuse, theft, parole violation, kidnapping, and rape, firearms, parole violations, also murder, burglary, weapons possessions, weapons charges, and one guy accused of shooting a man. Apparently the guy didn't die, so it's just shooting a man. Drug trafficking, battery, obstruction of justice. So yeah, basically the worst of the worst here. Here's the question. When trackers start the process of trying to find each and every one of these guys who's running, do they go to their families first because these guys might be too dumb to realize that they shouldn't go to mom for help or sis first?
Well, I mean, great question. They're probably taking a peripheral look at family members. I mean, like I said, historically, what kind of conversations on phones that were had. You know, that trusted circle of friends is going to be very important. I mean, if they did reach out for somebody to help, to assist them, you know, hopefully law enforcement is doing it by the numbers and they got a pretty good idea, you know, who they want to take a hard look at, if you will. But it is tough. I mean, the rap sheets that you just read off of, and for law enforcement, when that news starts tightening on some of these guys, you know, is it suicide by cop? I mean, they're up against it right now, so they have to approach them with extreme caution, and the public as well. You know, see something, say something, and make that phone call. But hopefully, this thing
Let me
goes
ask you
down
this.
without incident, and they put this thing to bed soon.
They got Kendall Miles first, and they found him cowering under a car in the French Quarter, which is not very far away. And it made me wonder, you know, as a marshal yourself, do you find that oftentimes these escapees actually don't go very far, that they actually stay kind of within a particular perimeter?
Well, I mean, in the escape cases I've been involved in, and the Dannemora in upstate New York rings a bell. You know, they have kind of a game plan going in. I mean, in Dannemora, as you know, they had that one female that they brought on to help them, and then she apparently has a panic attack the night before, and she was supposed to pick them up when they crawled through the sewer cap, and she didn't show because of her panic attack, and they, you know, they zigged when they should have zagged, and they didn't have a clue what to do after that. So yeah, I've seen it happen. Oh God, too many crazy ways. You know, sometimes they don't have a plan. Look at the two you just mentioned. I mean, they didn't get far. Was it facial recognition that picked up on some CCTV or security cameras that I'm hearing? That's a possibility. But there's so much assets out there for law enforcement. I know the U.S. Marshals, they bring a lot to the table with manpower, state-of-the-art equipment, and whatnot. So, you know, I always say you can run, but you can't hide. When you run, you only go to jail tired. And in this situation, they go back to jail tired.
Like I said, hopefully another jail. But quick mention that you just said about facial recognition. You know, every 5 to 10 years, the game changes. And my guess is that there's a lot of software and technology out there that can employ facial recognition. Is that something that's going to be very helpful, or just, you know, kind of spotty? Maybe it'll help now and again.
It's just one of the tools in the toolbox. I mean, there's so much going on. Did they get in a vehicle? Are they being picked up on license plate readers? I mean, the technology is extremely important for law enforcement. I know my former agency is way ahead of the curve on this stuff. You know, everybody hears about cellular intercepts and all this technology, but our electronic surveillance units, our financial surveillance units, our technical operations group, they're way ahead of the curve, like I said, on all this stuff. So, you know, hopefully, like I said, it's a matter of time, and this thing goes down without incident with each and every one of these inmates.
I keep looking at this video. I cannot see it enough. I'm not kidding. Every time I see the whole group of them just leaping off the loading dock, I think this ain't no Shawshank. I mean, how on earth this happened? Clearly on surveillance video with nobody noticing it. Not at all. All that activity. I mean, it's just a shock. It's a shock to the senses. Hey, Lenny DePaul, thanks so much for being on. I really appreciate it. We're going to call you and tap you for your expertise as they continue to pick them off, hopefully.
Thank you, Ashleigh. Have a good evening.
You too, and a good weekend as well. And my prayers to the parents and kids at the graduation in New Orleans. My God, Tulane graduation tomorrow. All right, still to come. Cassie has left the building. Ventura, that is, the star prosecution witness against P. Diddy. She endured 4 very uncomfortable and embarrassing days, all while 9 months pregnant on the stand. But did Puffy's lawyers do enough to clean up all the bad things that she said about him? And how about that tape where she threatens to kill a man? Yeah, we're going full gangsta next. You could say a year ago tomorrow, Sean Diddy Combs' world imploded. On that date, a surveillance video leaked of his ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, being viciously beaten by him in a hotel hallway. But his world would implode further when he was arrested 4 months later for racketeering and sex trafficking. Back then, we suspected that Cassie Ventura might be a witness in the case, and whoa, what a witness she's been. Over the past 4 days, she has captivated the world, and more importantly, a jury inside a New York federal courtroom with claims that Diddy forced her into humiliating, drug-fueled sex marathons with strangers, all for his own amusement. She's told a jury that Diddy beat her, raped her, and threatened her, and practically used her as a sex slave. But she's also been reading text messages and emails in open court that tell a different story. At times, it appears those freak-offs were her idea and that she loved them. And today, the jury was shown yet another side of Cassie Ventura, and it is a far cry from the quiet and composed mother of two who's 9 months pregnant on the stand. Diddy's lawyers played an unflattering audio recording of Cassie, where she was threatening to kill a DJ who said that he had a sex tape of her that was making the rounds. Her fear that it was one of those videos filmed during the kinky freak-offs. She told the man, quote, "I'm going to effing kill you. You're effing with me. I've never killed anybody in my life, but I will kill you. It's not going to be blood on my hands. Somebody else is going to do it. I will kill you and hide you in the effing dirt." But will that erase the rest of the damage that she did to her one-time boyfriend of 11 years in just 3 days of testimony for the prosecution? I'm joined now by Tarlika Nunes-Navarro, a former judge, prosecutor, and defense attorney who focused on criminal cases, domestic violence, and drug crimes. She's currently the dean of St. Thomas University College of Law. Judge, it's great to have you on. Thanks so much for doing this. I would love to get your thoughts, especially with your background, on the case so far.
Thank you for having me on, Ashleigh. I appreciate it. This is the case everyone is talking about. My law students can't get enough of it. The entire nation is watching. It's like a Super Bowl, a raunchy, nasty Super Bowl, unfortunately. So, it's been a week of testimony, but we have a long way to go. And I think it's way too early to call the shots at this time.
Well, how about this? Because so many people are caught up in the salacious stuff, right? The freak-off descriptions, the baby oil and all that business. But fewer people are talking about the actual charge at hand, right? Like sex trafficking, racketeering. Do you think that the prosecution thus far, with this star witness in particular, has been able to actually put together a case and show the jury the elements of those crimes, sex trafficking and racketeering?
I do. I think they did a great job for the first week of trial. I mean, we have a long way to go. They have 8 weeks, 8 weeks left. And so they don't have to prove all of the elements in this first week. And I think we've all been very hard on the prosecution. I think they have laid a very solid foundation with Cassie's testimony to date. And I think that they did a wonderful job with the first 3 days. I do think that the defense, when I put my defense hat on, I do applaud them for poking holes in some of her testimony. But I think that the prosecution has done a very solid job thus far.
So let's talk about the really tricky stuff, and that is the nuances of domestic violence. Again, your background in your legal practice has just been remarkable for this. Cassie Ventura told the jury and the courtroom today that she doesn't hate Diddy. Here's a quick series of messages. The defense says, do you hate Combs now? Ventura says, I don't hate him. The defense says, do you still have love for him? And Ventura says, I have love for the past and what it was. Do you think that a jury needs an expert on the stand to explain how tricky domestic violence is, that you can be two things? You can be a victim of domestic violence and be in love with your abuser.
I think we underestimate jurors. They know what's going on. They're in the courtroom. They're watching the body language of the witness. And I think an expert's great, but I don't think it's necessary. I think that this is a standard. This is what we see. When I was on the bench in domestic violence, when I was on the bench in criminal, you would see this in sex traffickers. This is the psychology of abuse. 80% of victims go back to their aggressors or their quote, what the defense would call co-defendants. It's a very slippery slope. Are they part of the racketeering? Are they part of the conspiracy? Or are they threatened? And I think we've all seen with the video that she was scared. And every time that she tried to leave, we all saw what happened. And so I think that's what the prosecution really has to overcome. It's why didn't she leave?
Yeah, well, they certainly wanted to show her as a willing participant and not a coerced sex trafficked victim in all of this. And who knows what the jury will think about the extremely aggressive gangsta-styled audio tape that they heard, which showed her in a very, very different light. It's a fascinating case. It's just great to have you. Thank you so much, Judge Navarro. Really appreciate it.
Of course. Have a great night. Thank you, Ashleigh.
We'll have you back again early and often. And just a quick note, everybody, we did reach out to Sean Combs' legal team for comment, but they didn't get back to us. And I say it every time they don't get back to us at this point, they're in trial. It's too busy. You can't be dealing with the press. I understand why they might not be getting back to us. But even before Diddy's legal troubles, I am not sure how many parents would have let their 15-year-old kid hang out with him for 2 straight days. And why Diddy would want to spend 2 days with a 15-year-old is a whole other question. But in 2009, he and Justin Bieber, not then old enough to drive, had a 48-hour play date that set off alarm bells all over again when Diddy was sued and accused and then charged with sex trafficking. So was a young Justin Bieber exposed to any harm at the hands of P. Diddy? Bieber is setting the record straight himself. I've got that next. In 2009, Sean Diddy Combs was as big as they get, a super famous, super successful, super rich hip-hop pioneer. And Justin Bieber was still a baby-faced teenage pop star. What a difference a decade and a half can make. Diddy took Bieber under his wing when he was just 14 years old. And at 15, the two of them had a 48-hour play date that blew up on Bieber's YouTube.
For the next 48 hours, he's with me, so and we gonna go full crazy.
I'm going crazy.
Crazy.
I'm taking this out tonight.
What you wanna do? What you wanna do over the next 48 hours?
48 hours. Let's go. Let's just go get some girls. Let's go hang with some girls.
A man after my heart. That's what I'm talking about, kid.
That was kind of eyebrow raising at the time, but later, of course, when the lawsuits and the charges came for Diddy, it seemed a whole lot worse. But through it all, Justin Bieber stayed quiet. He never said a word about his relationship with Diddy until now. And he is denying that anything bad ever happened between them. The internet has been on fire with speculation that Bieber may have been sexually abused as a young teen in Diddy's entourage. But Bieber has just put an end to all of the rumors. And TMZ was the first to obtain this statement from Bieber's camp. It reads, quote, "Although Justin is not among Sean Combs' victims, there are individuals who were genuinely harmed by him. Shifting focus away from this reality detracts from the justice these victims rightfully deserve." As for those videos, TMZ says they were all performative for public consumption, according to their sources. Their sources also say that Bieber never had a relationship with Diddy, but instead was friendly with Diddy's sons, Quincy and Justin. And all of this comes as TMZ releases a new investigative special called "What Happened to Justin Bieber?" I spoke about all of this earlier with my old friend Harvey Levin from TMZ. Take a look. So, Harvey, big news with regard to Justin Bieber and the week's big news, which is the Diddy trial.
Yeah, there has been a swirl on social media where people think that Diddy may have abused, even sexually abused, Justin Bieber. People are saying it online, and it's going around like crazy. And one of the reasons it's going around is because when Justin was 15, I mean, this is a long time ago, he and Diddy were on the Jimmy Fallon show, and Diddy talked about giving Justin keys to a Lambo. when he became 16, and that he had been to his house, but Justin wasn't supposed to say anything about what was going on in the house. And that was followed up by Diddy and Justin in front of a house saying, we're going to go buck wild for 48 hours. And now that we know what's going on with Diddy, a lot of people thought, wait a minute, Justin Bieber is going through some really serious mental struggles right now. I mean, you see it. And could it be that he is reflecting on what had happened to him? And so a lot of people are saying that. So we over at TMZ here have done a lot of digging on this. And we have talked to people both who were in Justin's life who are no longer there because this was a long time ago, and people who are currently in Justin's life. And they are all telling us the same thing, that nothing ever happened, that he wasn't really friends at all with Diddy. He was friends with Diddy's two sons, and that nothing ever happened. This was all performative. We contacted Justin's people, and we told them, you know, what we had gotten, and they simply said, okay, and hung up. And they called back and they said, we want to give you a statement. And they corroborated that. And they said nothing ever happened. And the reason why they were silent for the last month or two is because they said they didn't want to take away the attention from the alleged victims who were pressing cases or who were alleged victims in the criminal case. So they confirmed the story.
So it's interesting, the statement that you guys got from Justin Bieber's people, let me read a little bit of it. It says, although Justin is not among Sean Combs' victims, there are individuals who were genuinely harmed by him. Shifting focus away from this reality detracts from the justice these victims rightfully deserve. Look, I think we can all say that Cassie was 100% a victim of Sean Combs. We saw it on video in the hotel hallway beating. But do you think that there's a message that's going further here from Justin Bieber's camp, that there are other people who've been harmed by Sean Combs in other ways?
I think he was referring to this, and again, I don't know whether Justin wrote this, who wrote it, but I am not, you know, jumping to the conclusion that he knows of other people, because he really didn't know Diddy. I mean, there was really no relationship there. So, you know, is it possible that maybe he heard something? Yeah, but my God, Ashleigh, this has been everywhere for months and months and months, and people have come out. They've made allegations. He's on trial right now. There are people coming forward. Cassie Ventura has testified. Don Richards is going to testify next week. So, you know, I just think they're reacting to what they've seen everywhere else. That's what I think.
TMZ's docuseries is called What Happened to Justin Bieber. It is streaming on Hulu now. I've got some big, bad breaking news to tell you about. Wasn't only 40 minutes ago I was talking about all those escapees, right, down in New Orleans, and they just caught another. So 3 down, 7 to go. The latest to be caught, Decannon Dennis, the guy who was being held on armed robbery and weapons charges. All we can tell you at this point is that he was caught in New Orleans East. But I am on it, folks. I'm going to break in with every single one of these guys as they're being captured. But in the meantime, Harvey's going to come back in just a moment to reveal more about Justin's legal troubles. The Biebs, you know, social media has been blowing up that he's thin and he's gaunt and that he's acting erratically in public, and that those close to him are worried about a church that he's been touting that seems a lot more like a cult. Harvey's next with the scoop. We just talked about a statement from Justin Bieber that he said flatly he is not and never was any sort of victim of Sean Diddy Combs. It certainly does give believers one less thing to worry about, but it does leave about a dozen other things on the table, including his bizarre behavior in public, his gaunt and sickly appearance, reports that his marriage is in trouble, reports that he's flat broke, and also that he's tangled up with a church that some say is more like a cult. TMZ just dropped an investigative special called What Happened to Justin Bieber? And I talked to Harvey Levin about the relatively new spiritual leader who is in Justin's life.
Justin has always had a Svengali in his life. Scooter Braun was kind of a surrogate father, manager. He was everything to Justin. And then there was this pastor, when Justin got deeply involved in the church, Carl Lentz, who assumed that role. There is another pastor now, the head of Church Home. His name is Judah Smith. Judah Smith is different.
I mean, Judah Smith is a pastor who was also on the board of Justin's clothing company, although he says he didn't make any money off of it. But he's involved in Justin's business, and some people think almost running Justin's life. And Justin gloms on to stuff like this. And there are people who think that Judah Smith runs a cult. Judah Smith says absolutely not. But there are people who say this is very culty. And Justin is deeply involved in it. And what's happened while he's been in this church is Justin has jettisoned almost his entire circle of friends and associates since he's been involved in the church. And the church now is involved in everything, you know, to the point that the business manager, we're told, who is also a member of the board in the church, went to Scooter Braun, who is Jewish, and said, I am a woman of the cloth. And, you know, and before that, Justin and Judah confronted Scooter and said, you've got to believe in Jesus. And Scooter's Jewish. So eventually this business manager said, I am a woman of the cloth. We can forgive you, but we cannot work with you anymore, and cut him off. So the church is really like this with Justin Bieber.
Big question. You mentioned that he has earned upwards of $1 billion in his career. Where is all the money?
I know. You know, they spend like crazy. I mean, they have multiple mega mansions that they paid cash for. Everywhere they go, they take these heavy jets. And, you know, these jets, if you go from LA to Tokyo and back on one of the jets that could be $700,000. So I know what you're saying. We've seen it with other stars, too. We've seen it with athletes. You can blow through a tremendous amount of money. And part of it may just be squandering, and part of it may be just living that luxurious life. But I'm telling you, the words we got from people who are involved with this and with him were that in 2022, these are their words, he was on the verge of financial collapse.
You know, I suppose if you think about it, if you're taking $1 million flight to Tokyo, right, there are only 999 of those in $1 billion. So right. If you're going to behave that way over and over and over, you can blow through it pretty quickly. And everybody knows you don't get all that money. I mean, you get about half of that. Once you're taxed, you pay managers, you pay fees, you pay agents, you pay everything.
50% for taxes, 20% for managers, 5% for lawyers, and so on, publicists. It gets whittled down real quickly.
Yeah. Okay. One last quick question. Is there a chance for Justin Bieber to make a comeback? Because I am a huge fan, and I don't think he's recorded for 4 years.
I'm glad you asked that. And we end the show with this. Yes. Justin Bieber is now in Iceland. And by the way, he bought out a hotel for $60,000 a night, Ashleigh. So, right. But he's there with other artists. He's recording music. So he's going to do that. But when you think about Justin Bieber, you know, he seems to hate touring. It really takes a toll on him. But if Justin Bieber just did a residency whenever he wanted, he could make millions and millions and millions of dollars. I mean, he is every bit the level of Adele and maybe bigger. And so Justin Bieber, you know, even if you thought of this 31-year-old as a legacy act, it's an act that will live for decades and decades. And who knows, this music may well be great, but, you know, his fans, some of his fans were born when Baby came out. So, you know, time marches on. And even if, look, maybe this will be it probably will be a #1 record, at least at the beginning. And maybe it'll be just as big as everything else. But even if it isn't, Justin Bieber has got a lock on a career for the rest of his life.
31. I have relish in the fridge that's 31. I mean, that is... Harvey, I love you to pieces. Good luck with the special.
Thank you. It's streaming on Hulu right now.
I'm watching it. I'm going to run, not walk. Thank you.
Thanks, Ashleigh.
And again, the special is called What Happened to Justin Bieber, streaming on Hulu. Okay, I don't know, but I'm guessing that police officers have more than their fair share of nightmares given their line of work, and this has to be right up there with the worst.
Yes, I got it! Yes, I got it!
Oh my God! Forever. Please don't shoot me! Please don't shoot me!
A cop staring down the barrel of her very own gun in the hands of a man who looked hell-bent on using it. After a break, a heart-stopping tale of actions and consequences, and yes, the rest of that video. Stay right there. Our police nightmare of the week comes from Orange County, California. An officer has a routine chat with a man who's acting suspicious, who for some reason decides to run off and then winds up face-to-face with another officer, a woman, and gets his hands on her firearm. Watch and listen what happened next.
Save the Jesus name! They're saving the Jesus name forever! They're saving the Jesus name forever! Oh my God! Yes, I got it! Oh my God! Forever! Please don't shoot me! Please don't shoot me!
Absolutely terrifying. But what happened next? The man who grabbed the officer's gun then ran and jumped behind the wheel of her cruiser and then was shot to death by another officer 16 seconds later. No one else in this incident was hurt, and police say they have no idea why the man did what he did. Thank God those officers are all okay. Be sure to check out my podcast, Drop Dead Serious. I've got daily updates on the Karen Reed case and also the Diddy case. There's the QR code. Go to Drop Dead Serious. You can watch it on YouTube as well. Thanks for watching tonight, everyone. Have a great weekend. I'll see you back here on Monday. Cuomo's next.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.